Day 3 of 3. We want you to check in sometime today and become a Mix 98.9 Miracle Maker for only $10 a month. That's 30 cents a day. What we're doing is all about stories. We want to educate you about stories, about success stories, great stories from the hospital, where last year 72,000 kids made visits to Akron Children's Hospital. Mahoning Valley, the Beagley campus here, 72,000. Yesterday we had 92 in the ER allowed. 92 in the ER.
Oh, I told you kids to be careful. What were you doing?
Yeah, right.
Hey, one of our great stories
Wait a
from...
minute. Tell everybody what you did last night. When you did your wash, what did you do?
We don't need to share that with people. I washed my cell phone.
It's the cleanest phone in town.
I jumped in the pool with it at the beginning of summer, so I guess we've completed a whole entire summer.
We're getting you a waterproof, sealed in a plastic bag phone.
Anyhow, Miracle Makers, I know when you're calling in, you're like $10 a month. Where does the money go? The money goes to make miracles and our great stories. And the parents that come here, it's always a delight for us. We're going to meet Jami Erjavic. How'd I do, Jami? That was really good. We've been practicing. Now, Jami, your son, how old was Hudson when you noticed you thought maybe he had the flu or something?
Right, he was about 2.5 years old.
Oh, so he was a little guy.
Yes, very little. And he had reoccurring ear infections for some time, and he had just been off 3 rounds of antibiotics because he couldn't fight a double ear infection, October of 2012. And it was about a month later, Thanksgiving weekend, that he started to show signs of a cold or a virus. And he wasn't getting better. We brought him to the pediatrician, and he said he likely had a virus. His ears were clear, and it just started to progress. And they typically say 7 to 14 days, and things start to pass. Mm-hmm. And it progressed and progressed, and he started to show more severe signs of a stomach bug. We brought him back to the pediatrician, and by that point, he had shown signs of becoming pretty dehydrated. His lips were bleeding. He was no longer playful, and he's a pretty energetic, busy little guy.
He was in the terrible twos.
Yes, exactly, and he's the poster child.
Yeah, he put the terrible in too.
So for him to just sit on the couch and not want to play with a toy or walk around or anything, we knew something was wrong. And then he had just quit eating and drinking, and he was every 30 minutes bending over and having severe abdominal cramping. So we knew that it was getting worse, and it had been a couple of weeks. So we brought him back to the pediatrician, and at that time they told us to come over to Akron Children's Hospital and have him put on an IV to get hydrated and to have some testing run, because we all knew that something else was taking place and something else was wrong, but there was just no way to pinpoint it. And one of the great things about the hospital and our experience is when you're dealing with a 2-year-old, they can't really tell you what hurts and where the pain is.
And exactly what's going on. They just know they don't feel right.
Yeah. Right, and it's one of the hardest things for a mom to not know how to make her son comfortable.
Oh boy.
Because you're trying everything and it's just not working, and he's continuing to get worse. So we knew something was going on, but we couldn't find out what it was. So that's how we came to the hospital.
So when they told you what it was, and you'll tell us what it was, how did you feel?
Well, that was another long process. When we first came to the hospital, the experience was wonderful. There was so much support. We were in the emergency room, and they knew pretty quickly after a few hours that they would be admitting him, but they still did not know what was wrong. It was about 48 hours before the test came back. So there was this long process of still seeing him get worse and not knowing how to make him comfortable. But everyone was so great at trying to make him comfortable. And even when we were in the ER and running the test, the admitting physician came down to watch his sonogram being done, and the radiologist was there, and the ER physician was there. So I could tell that everyone was very concerned on all levels, and no one wanted to just read a report, but everyone wanted to actually be there to see for themselves the results of the test as they were taking place. That was just one of the tests.
So that was 48 hours until you figured out what happened. So where were you? I mean, how did you feel? Frantic?
Look, she still does when she tells the story, huh?
It's odd because this this calm comes over you where you just want to do everything to take care of your son and make him comfortable. And, you know, you can't think about yourself. So I was just thinking of a million things I could do to make him feel comfortable. So I was just holding him the 48 hours, just not leaving his side. And everyone was so great about making me comfortable as well as him comfortable in that situation. So it was close to 48 hours. And to answer your original question, when we found out what he had tested positive for initially, there was a huge sense of relief. But that wasn't the end of the story, because what he had tested positive for, there was weeks and even months before he was well again. So initially there was a huge sense of relief, but then you were back to the worrying and the, are we going to fight this, and how are we going to fight it, and how long is it going to take? So that's when the staff just gave a whole new level of support.
And when it ended up being a C. diff, which is something from the antibiotics. People that are on antibiotics for a long period of time get,
Right.
and it's pretty much in the intestinal.
Yes, because, I mean, there's various ways you can catch it, but the C. diff is a superbug, as is explained to me, and it's very antibiotic resistant. So there's not many ways to get it out of your system. It often comes to the elderly in nursing homes and people with weak immune systems who are on a lot of medication and antibiotics. So we think that he had over a dozen ear infections in the course of 18 months. So the constant antibiotics had weakened his immune system, and it is a bad bacteria that lives in your gut, which is where most of your immune system is, and it basically wipes out all of the good bacteria in your gut, and it takes over, and it's a superbug. So one of the ways that they treat it is ironically with antibiotics, the very thing that got you there. And as I was told when I was here, one of the couple, just the 2 or 3 antibiotics that they treat it with is among the strongest antibiotics in the world. So if that doesn't work, your options are sort of
So you're
limited.
worried about that, hoping and praying that this will work.
Right.
But
And
we get Hudson on the road to recovery, and then you have another little boy, Mason, at home, and he ends up with it because it is a highly contagious.
Right. So we stayed here a few more days, and that was a whole experience because we started to see him improve, but it is highly contagious. So you have a 2.5-year-old in a room because he couldn't leave the room to go into the play areas or walk the halls or anything. And everyone was so great about making him comfortable and finding out what his likes and needs were. And so we were on this road to recovery. We get home and we're scrubbing everything with bleach, every toy, every utensil, every countertop. But as it was explained to me, the spores could live on a dry surface for up to 30 days.
Wow.
So it's not something that you can easily just wipe away.
And Mason was tiny. I mean,
Mason was just months old. So he started, that was the first or second week of December, and it was Christmas Eve, and we just knew from the symptoms. And we brought Mason immediately back to the hospital. This is the baby now. And had him tested, and sure enough, Hudson had passed it to Mason, and then that went on for several more weeks where when they started to hit the road to recovery, they were passing it back and forth.
Oh boy. But now you have 2 little boys in here, and Jami, what you want people to take away this morning, I mean, you've lived what they do here, and what can you tell people about how lucky we are?
I mean, just the fact that this facility is here, what they did to cater toward a child's need, I couldn't imagine being at a different facility that wasn't geared towards children. In addition, this superbug, it progresses so quickly, and I think that if they didn't take it so seriously and they just treated it as a simple virus during the season, I don't know where we'd be, but they were so thoughtful to run every test and to treat it with so much urgency that we knew so quickly what was wrong with Hudson. And they taught us how to stop passing it back and forth between the boys, and they taught us what we can do at home to make them get well quicker. It wasn't just about the care here, but it was about them allowing us to call them in the middle of the night when I just wasn't feeling safe, and allowing me to ask questions even 2 and 3 weeks down the road and talk to the physicians myself, not just communicating through someone else.
So it was a whole team effort for them, a family effort. Everyone was involved, and after how long, this is months going on, so you felt very comfortable, and of course, whenever you needed them here, they're in the valley,
Right.
here. You can help continue that tradition on.